Blessings, good evening. Today is the full moon day, the end of the Katina season, the end of the rainy season. But it also coincides with the birthday of Liem, who has visited us here many times in Australia, and particularly this monastery, Buddha Bodhiwana Monastery. So tonight we have a reading of a question and answer session with him that was given to the community here. I think it was in 2012 and became part of the book known as No Worries. So I'll just read the questions and answers from this session, just as a reminder of the beauty and profoundness of his Dhamma teachings. Question: when one uses a meditation word, parikamma, normally should one repeat it aloud? Answer: it doesn't matter. If one is alone, one can repeat it aloud, but if one is together with others, it's not necessary to do so. When one breathes in, one repeats the syllable but, and when one breathes out, do. What one repeats is a name in a language, the Pali language, that people respect and that gives rise to good feelings. Buddho means the one who knows and is awake. It refers to awakening, just like after we have slept. When we become conscious, get up and start picking up all kinds of impressions around us, what we apply is the faculty of knowing and wakefulness. Another method that one can use generally is to focus one's mind with awareness, paying attention to mind states and observing them in order to build up some understanding of one's mental experiences. To observe one's mind, the Buddha said, leads to safety. One observes it in order to become free from Mara's snare. In this context, Mara refers to certain feelings we experience in our minds that we call moods. The Buddha said, Ye jitang sanyame santi mokanti maranandana. Whoever follows his mind observing it is freed from the bonds of Mara. Question: I heard that you went to see a cremation at the crematorium in Melbourne. What would be some good reflections to use on this topic? Answer: one can take what one sees at a cremation as a theme for questioning oneself. For example, today they have burned this person, but tomorrow, who knows who is going to be burned? Could it be me? These are good questions because they make us skilled in dealing with the reality of life. When the inevitable events that nature brings arise, we won't be stirred up in confusion. The Buddha praised seeking out cremation sites so we won't lose ourselves in the pleasures and the fun until feelings of infatuation take hold of us. We have a look at that which helps to alleviate our desires and aversions. We look at cremations to reduce the delusions of self-importance, me and mine. To question oneself in this way can bring about peace of mind to a certain degree. Question: if we reflect on death like this, is it possible that the result is that one gets depressed? Does one need a teacher to guide one, or how does one prevent depression from coming up? Answer. In the beginning, it is possible that symptoms like this arise, but if one gets used to the contemplation over a long time, this will change. This makes me think of the time when I was a young man, together with my friends. Everyone felt they had great fun, the way young people do. But when I'd start mentioning the subject of death, it seemed that nobody wanted to talk about it. Everyone would run away, evading the topic. People don't want to face things like death. They don't want to get involved. It is considered something inauspicious. But when I brought this subject up, it was meant as a reminder to make people conscious of death. In northeast Thailand, or Isan, the ceremonies for the departed are called good house festivals. These good house festivals are events that make us experience the reality of life. Question. I see you sitting here, smiling, relaxed, at ease and in good spirit, but when I turn back to look at myself, I see that I'm still suffering and can't really smile all too much. This is because I haven't yet practiced the Dhamma in the correct way, isn't it? Answer. You would probably know. But anyway, the practice probably needs some factors of support, so it gets stronger. If there is more strength, things will work out by themselves. Question. Is part of the practice like climbing up a mountain, which naturally has to be exhausting, but if one has reached the top, all the weariness is gone? Answer. That's probably the way it is. Luang Por used to quote a local philosophical saying, if you climb a tree, don't be slow, hesitate or go back. If you climb a mountain, go slowly and gradually. Question. Is there a way to always experience happiness while one is practicing, or does there also have to be some suffering? Answer. If we take a meal, the purpose is to become full. If we don't stop eating, we will surely become full. While we are eating, we still have the desire to allay our hunger. But if we keep on eating, the hunger will disappear. Question. Even though we still experience suffering in our practice, we are probably also building up some good qualities. What is your advice? Where should we develop goodness? Answer. There are many forms of goodness, but whatever form goodness appears in, it only serves a single purpose: to support us in not having to experience suffering. In his own language, the Buddha called this goodness punya. What does punya include? Among other things, it includes giving support and help to other people. For example, when we see an accident while traveling, we can give help. When we help others, we build up the quality of metta. One is also offering something to others. But in Thailand, people are afraid of helping others in an accident. In the old days, people were honest and trustworthy. Today, people are not so friendly anymore. These days, if somebody simply helps out without thinking, if there are no witnesses, he might find himself being accused of causing the accident. That's why people today are cautious and suspicious. This is a symptom of a changing society where people don't trust each other anymore. But to help others is a way to build up goodness and mutual support. To practice abstaining from doing evil, abstaining from the path to what is called the disasters of hell, is a path that gives rise to beneficial feelings. In fact, all the things that human beings have invented and created are meant to be of benefit. But if they are used in a bad way, they become dangerous and disadvantageous. Drugs like morphine or caffeine, for example, are widely used. If they are used in the wrong way, people become crazy, deranged, and their nervous system becomes out of balance. We need to understand what is good and what isn't. Surely the Buddha had good reasons for teaching us to refrain from things that lead to conflict or aggression, to be determined to do good. This is a matter of intention. The very beginning of the training is the practice of sila, moral conduct. Then one develops the meditation practice, maintaining mindfulness. Mindfulness in relation to the different postures of the body, for example. Furthermore, one needs to lead one's life with skill and with wise reflection. The other day I spoke about the fact that in our lives we rely on using electrical energy. When we use electric light, we have to be mindful and aware, because electricity can also be dangerous. If used mindfully and with circumspection, electric energy is of great benefit and use. We can derive happiness from it and use it as we wish, but this depends on correct practice. Question. I would like to ask about developing metta as a specific meditation practice. As far as I know, it is not something that the teachers in Thailand speak about a lot, but in the West it is very popular. What is your point of view on this matter? The reason that the teachers in Thailand don't talk about metta as a specific meditation practice comes from the understanding that the perfection of upholding sila brings about metta by itself. Metta goes along with sila because sila naturally takes one on the path of non-conflict. Metta also needs to be coupled with equanimity, upekkha. If metta lacks upekkha, it isn't complete, and it might not give rise to proper development in the practice. There is also metta that is actually love, isn't there? And there is love that is coupled with metta. Can you remember the senior Western monk who had metta for a handicapped friend and disrobed to marry her? I think they separated again, aren't they? Question. Can I ask you for some advice how to alleviate sensual desire? On the coarser level, sensual desire has to do with food as a stimulus. If we can reduce this factor, it will become less strong, but not to the extent that it fully disappears. But at least it goes down to the level where one can investigate it a bit. If I continue speaking like this, I might get into conflict with the big food companies. And he laughed. Question. Is Thai food particularly dangerous? Answer. Whatever food, if one eats much, there is much danger. The principles that the Buddha gave are to know the right balance, the appropriate amount. This is called bojane matanyuta, knowing the right amount in eating. Question. Is to reflect on anicca, dukkha, and anatta in a way that leads us to real wisdom different from our normal understanding? Answer. It is different. If the reflection is deep enough, everything will stop. If it isn't that deep yet, it is still useful as a means to trigger and stimulate our memory, sanya, enough for an approach to real wisdom, panya. If we merely know from memory, that's also useful, just like when we know a map well, knowing the map is useful. Question. I'd like to ask about sankharas arising and ceasing in the mind. Anger, for example. Sometimes when I see a certain person, anger arises. When this person leaves, the anger disappears. But later, even after many years, if I meet the same person again, the anger comes back again. And then again it ceases. How shall we deal with situations like this where anger arises repeatedly? After all, it seems that the anger is still present in the heart. Answer. We actually don't have to deal with or try to prevent anything from arising at all. We only need to be carefully aware of ourselves continually. Emotions like this are like visitors. They are just dropping in, coming to see us. Nevertheless, they can be dangerous, so one needs to be a bit careful with them. After all, as the Buddha said, the things that arise will also cease. Question. So no need to inquire why we get angry or think much about it. Or all we need to observe is that the anger, once arisen, ceases again. Answer. Well, we still need to apply ourselves to the practice of samadhi a bit. Just like when one works, one also needs a break from time to time. If work is combined with rest, one establishes a good balance. We shouldn't be heedless in our activities. We need to train developing peace of mind from time to time, so we'll be more and more able to relax. But don't build up your meditation on the basis of wanting and wishing. Just keep doing your practice of meditation until it becomes part of your good habits. Question. I sometimes have very clear dreams telling events of the future or other events, like accidents or other bad news. Are these things that I should pay attention to, go and tell other people about, or should I keep these things to myself? Answer. These kind of things should be kept to oneself. If other people are involved, it is not appropriate to tell them, partly because sometimes the messages may be very clear, but at other times they're not. Dreams are a part of sankharas, citta sankhara. They can be telling about the future. Sometimes they are right, sometimes they are not. There are mistakes made. We can understand them as a kind of knowledge and observe them, but we shouldn't hold on to them too much. Question. I've heard others talk about having visions or nimittas of heavenly beings, devatas, and all kinds of things when they meditate. For somebody who is new in the practice and doesn't have much experience, how important is it to believe in these visions? Answer. They are a hindrance in the development of samadhi. There is something to be well aware of. The appropriate way to practice is, of course, to practice samadhi wherever you are, but not to the point of overdoing it. We should allow a little exposure to sensory input and practice building up some sense restraint. The practice needs to be backed up by supporting factors. The Buddha called them consummations for the qualities of Dhamma, guna samapati. The first supporting factor is restraint in sila, and the second is motivation or intention. Motivation or intention means to be possessed of an honest and pure feeling with steadfast aspiration and determination. The first factor, restraint in sila, deals with our relation to the sense doors. The sense doors are the place where tanha or craving arises and where it is extinguished. Tanha arises in connection with delightful and pleasurable things, piya rupa and satta rupa. Wherever the eyes see forms, the ears hear sounds, the tongue tastes flavors, and the body feels contact, we practice restraint with the mental objects arising in our minds, in order to not allow feelings of liking and disliking to take control of the mind. Here you need some extra determination, because once likes and dislikes have arisen in the mind, they are there and can't be stopped. They are states of mind in their own right. If they have arisen, we need to watch their cessation. The feeling of liking something is a form of kama-danha, sensual craving, and the feeling of disliking is a form of vipawa-danha, craving not to become, or craving to get rid of. We have to watch the course on which these feelings take us. The likes are deceitful and illusionary, and we get carried away by the experience of fun and pleasure they give rise to. They stimulate desires and wishes, but we can control them when we are restraining our bodily actions. We can put them aside. There is some danger in the other factor as well. Motivation and intention to practice can turn into quite an obstacle. At first, we all come to the practice with a mind of faith, but the feeling that our aspirations are being satisfied. But at some time, the satisfaction will become less, and the feeling of dissatisfaction naturally will increase. Eventually we become discouraged, tired and fed up. It is normal that there has to be some discouragement in the practice too. In the times we feel strong, we say we can do our job, but in times of weakness, we say we can't stand it anymore. That's the way it goes. We constantly have to be aware, keep observing and questioning ourselves in our practice. Why do these states of mind come up? We might not be able to prevent these states of mind, but what we can do is to keep our minds focused one-pointedly. At least we practice to be careful with those factors that lead us into delusion and danger. In doing so, the feeling of being tied up, depleted or enslaved into some narrow perimeter where we don't have freedom anymore will become less severe, and we will be composed and restrained. The third supporting factor in the practice is bhojane matanyuta, or knowing the right amount in eating. Concerning our lifestyle, we always need to be able to know the right amount. If we previously lived in circumstances where we always were able to gratify our desires, the practice situation we are in now surely will feel restricted. We'll experience a lot of unpleasant feelings, including hunger and thirst. But if we encounter experiences like this, we get to know them and understand them. In some of the cases, what we experience may simply be normal for our physical body. Our body needs to urinate and defecate, so it has to respond with feelings of hunger and thirst. This is nothing to worry about. Still, anything that we aren't used to yet will require some adaptation. This, of course, takes time, but it can be done. When we eventually are physically used to our new circumstances of living, our lifestyle is nothing to be worried about anymore. Nevertheless, these doubts and worries about the conditions of living are usually a big issue for new monks. That's why in the 4 dangers of a monk, the Buddha warned us to not be somebody who gets overpowered by only thinking of his stomach, and to not be somebody who can't bear with any difficulty. The 4th supporting factor in the practice is Chakariyana Yoga, or devotion to wakefulness. This factor has to do with keeping up awareness, following the mind, and upholding clarity of mind. It means to be cautious, not to let evil tendencies arise in oneself. The word evil refers to the defilements and stains of character that we all know too well. The Buddha taught the principle of being devoted to wakefulness, so we become aware of the unwholesome characteristics of mind. At the same time, there should be the effort to support the wholesome qualities of mind. What is wholesome we surely must know too. The wholesome qualities of mind need to be supported in quite a few different ways so that feelings of discouragement, exhaustion and resignation won't arise. Still, this can happen. When lack of motivation and discouragement occurs, it needs to be faced, looked at and warded off. One has to protect oneself from this. Not only you, I myself have gone through experiences like this. I almost quit the job, to put it simply. But given the fact that we are in a state of training and still need to practice, we need to remind ourselves that this process takes time. It's not just in a few seconds that one adapts to new circumstances. Everything naturally takes time. The last two factors of the 4 dangers of a new monk, following thinking only about one's stomach and not being able to bear with difficulty, are infatuation with sense pleasures or wanting to experience even increasing happiness, and finally a danger which all of us who are part of one specific group or biological sex should be well aware of, the danger of males relating to females. Question. On another occasion you spoke about sensual pleasures and compared them to a fire inside our hearts. If we investigate with mindfulness, we can see their disadvantages, their impermanence, the fact that there is nothing substantial or stable in sense pleasures. If we reflect on these truths often, when exposed to sensual pleasure, is it possible to see these dangers the very moment that the agreeable phenomena, itaramana, arise? Answer. If we've got mindfulness, it should be possible to see them. Agreeable phenomena are part of what the Buddha called the worldly dharmas, or the loka dhamma. These dhammas dominate the world. Agreeable phenomena are what is reckoned as happiness in the ways of the world, whereas disagreeable phenomena are what the world refers to as suffering. But for someone who understands things from a perspective of seeing the danger in the worldly dhammas, there is nothing but suffering or dukkha arising. There is nothing to be found that is happiness or sukha, nothing but dukkha arising and nothing but dukkha ceasing. Someone who sees this understands the world in a way that makes the common truths of existence become obvious. This person constantly realizes the impermanence of existence and develops a feeling of being fed up with the world. To be fed up in this context refers to the fact that there isn't anything constant, stable, sure or reliable in the world. What do the 8 worldly dhammas, as they are mentioned in the theoretical framework of Buddhism, comprise? You should know well enough. They deal with wealth and possessions that when we attain them are called gain. Our gain then becomes loss when we lose it. In connection with society, there is the praise we get from people if they appreciate us, and there is blame when they don't. So the 8 worldly dhammas are just gain and loss, loss of wealth, attainment of rank, fame or status and the loss of it, praise and blame, and happiness and suffering. Actually, one can sum up all the 8 worldly dhammas into 2, sukha and dukkha. But the Aryapugala, the noble one, who lives in accordance with the common truths of existence and possesses views in accordance with them, would say, there is nothing else but dukkha arising and nothing else but dukkha ceasing. There is nothing stable, constant, sure or reliable in the world. Thus, what the Aryapugala experiences is a feeling of being fed up with things. That's all the way the experience is. Question: And if one has practiced to the last step of enlightenment, is it equanimity or upekkha that will arise, no matter what one gets into contact with, whether good or bad? Answer. If we've reached the end of the practice in terms of the sense spheres or in terms of living with other people, there will be no experience of liking and disliking anymore. Male and female, these are just aspects of conventional reality. There will be no more feelings that lead towards objects of sensual pleasure. The experience is that all those likes and dislikes are simply no longer existent. There are many different phenomena that we might then experience. For example, the nervous system up in the brain feels cool. The experience of sense contact is not of the kind that leads into a path that gives rise to changes in one's mind. There will be a quality that can be called neither agreeable nor disagreeable. It is a reality of nature that is very pure. This means, although one sees with one's own eyes what they call beauty, there is nothing beautiful there. Not in a negative sense though, just that there isn't anything. It is an experience of emptiness, all empty. That's a bit what it's like. It's emptiness in a way that gives us the feeling of being unaffected or untouched. Just like there isn't anything more that we have to respond to or prevent from happening. What is left is simply the feeling of utmost emptiness. But the experience is not one of indifference in the sense that one doesn't have a clue of what's going on. It is indifference in the sense of feeling that there is enough of everything. One is satisfied already. One has had enough. There is nothing more that can be added. What is left is only a matter of taking different bodily movements and postures, for example, when we take a rest. One doesn't rest out of any kind of desire. Taking a rest is just a specific way of relaxing the physical tensions in the body. When the time comes to have a rest, one can take a rest without having to experience the nivaranas, or the 5 hindrances. The same is true for the time when one is awake. One really knows to be awake when it is the time to be awake. When one sleeps, one is aware that one sleeps. Sleep is a method that the body uses, but on behalf of the mind, awareness is still present. It's just like the saying, to sleep while being awake, and to be awake while being asleep. And he laughed.